I'm Jim Csek. You're watching Kelowna Now. I'm here with Iain Burns, our managing editor, and Jason Mann back there on the control board. He may chirp in every now and then, but today, the big day, huge day, down across the border, millions of voters to hit the polls to decide who takes the White House as election day in full swing. I did a about a 35-minute live stream with Renee Merrifield this morning because we're going to do a weekly politics show. We covered off quite a bit of that stuff, so you can go back and watch that. I think you're going to have that up shortly, aren't you, Iain?
I am indeed, yeah. Looking forward to it.
There you go. So, big day down there. Polls are wide open. People are voting. Lots of early votes, for sure. If you're watching it, I advise you to watch it on multiple channels to kind of get a different kind of view instead of watching it on one side where it's leaning one way or the left. If you typically watch Fox, watch a little CNN. If you typically watch CNN, watch a little Fox. And then there's also a lot of those people
and go on X.
And go on X. Yeah, X is probably going to have a lot of the stuff. X is one of the cool places to get a lot of news for sure, and you get a lot of different viewpoints out there. So yeah, big day down there. Get out that bowl of popcorn, your favorite beverage, sit back and enjoy. And you may not know the results tonight. It could be...
probably not, I would say. But, I mean, fingers crossed that we do know, because nobody wants to stay up that late, do they?
Are the BC Lottery Commission gambling venues still open for picking your winner? To make it even more interesting?
I believe they are.
So you can actually go there and put some money down and then make it even more entertaining as you're watching, just like betting on the football game or the hockey game or whatever. BC Lottery has you covered.
Yeah, they said that the 2020 presidential election was their biggest ever event.
No way. I didn't even know you could vote. Until you did that story yesterday, I did not even know that, not vote, I did not even know that you could bet on the U.S. elections.
Yeah, well, it's funny that you said vote, because it's almost a bit like that, isn't it? It's the only way that we can have any kind of skin in the game.
and the odds in the betting is favoring Donald Trump. The payout yesterday was 1.68 for $1, and then it was 2-1 for Kamala Harris. So they have her as the long shot.
And I think that is, obviously it's going to change all the time, but I think that is just about the same now. Just it's very similar odds, yeah. And I think that's based on, the polls are extremely tight, but on the aggregator websites, Trump is ahead by a fraction in a lot of the important states like Pennsylvania and North Carolina and so on.
And they say the closet vote definitely favors him because lots of people don't want to admit they're voting Trump.
Yeah, I mean, it's also it's very complicated, isn't it? Because in this particular election, I think you had this conversation with Mario a little bit, didn't you? It's almost like men v women in a lot of ways. Yeah. The split is quite stark, and I feel like that's going to affect a lot of relationships, isn't it? So maybe that is true. But two are keeping their mouths closed.
Two big names that were typically more on the Democratic side that have come out in strong support: Elon Musk and Joe Rogan. Last night, Joe Rogan in the 11th hour.
With Rogan, I feel like not many people will be surprised by that if they've followed his.
Well, he said he's never done it before. He said he's never done. But he's got a pretty strong podcast, right? But then again, you got the likes of Oprah Winfrey, Beyonce. I don't know all these movie star names. I don't follow that stuff. Taylor Swift.
Harrison Ford did a very solemn, serious little video.
I did see the one from former Governor Schwarzenegger. Coming out in support of a former Republican governor coming out in support of Kamala Harris. And you got to remember that Arnold eats his breakfast in his kitchen with a donkey. So,
well, didn't he also get attacked because he's got a giant fridge? No, maybe that was Nancy Pelosi.
Oh yeah, she's got the fridge with the ice cream. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. There you go. Big white, big night. 12 centimeters of fresh snow. So big news for the people that want to. Put on the skis and the snowboard and all that kind of stuff. So look at all that fresh powder. Not great if you're traveling in the connector and the Coke and all that kind of stuff. It's definitely tire season. But that's a good look for Big White there early on.
Yeah. Crazy, isn't it?
And some more sad news in the daily media landscape. The Kelowna Daily Courier has changed its name because they're going down to 2 days a week now, twice a week. So instead of changing themselves to the Kelowna twice a week, and they've gone from the Daily Courier to the Kelowna Courier, and that's effective November 1st. They've reduced to twice a week. Bill C-18 and the government intervention in the media, making winners and losers. I don't know if anybody can say that media is better off with the Liberal government intervention.
Sadly, I mean, it's a shame, isn't it, to have to talk about specific parties and specific governments, but in this case, it happens to be true, doesn't it? They did something unprecedented, this government, and they intervened in the media landscape. They gave money, huge amounts of money, to certain publications, and they also took away a gigantic source of revenue in the form of Facebook. And I don't know about the Daily Courier. I mean, I don't think they had much of a Facebook presence, did they? But
no.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it can't have helped.
They are, I'm sure, getting some of the funding. The Conservatives, the NDP, and the Bloc have held the feet to the fire for the CBC. The Liberals tried to prevent her from being questioned again, but it seems the other three parties said, no, we'd like to hear some answers from Catherine Tate.
Yeah, it's a tough time for CBC, isn't it? And you've heard off the record, haven't you, that a lot of their staff are quite fearful about potential election of Pierre Poilievre.
And we can't wait, because we would like to have our Facebook, our Meta, and Instagram back. And it seems sad when media is like rooting for a certain politician. They should stay out of the out of the media's way and leave media be independent and free.
Yeah, well, it's a very sensitive, all this talk about democracy and how sacrosanct it is, it plays into that too, doesn't it? This is in effect a kind of intervention into Canadian democracy that the government has made, and it doesn't look like it's been a particularly positive one.
If we look at the landscape, the Global, which is Chorus, basically, teetering on bankruptcy, up for sale, Black Press went through it. I mean, we've seen it in Bell Media selling a bunch of stations. I mean, it's just, it goes on and on and on. I think you did a story like 38 media outlets. That was about 6.5 months ago. So there's probably even more now. In this local market, Kamloops this week went out citing Bill C-18 as part of their reason for going. And here's the Kelowna Daily Courier. At one point, the Daily Courier had over 120 staff members.
Wow. Well, I mean, it's chipped away, hasn't it, over the last 20 or 30 years, I guess, various sort of attacks on the media. But I think it started to feel like maybe we'd figured out an equilibrium with Facebook and with, social media, but then now that's been disturbed, hasn't it? And
we worked hard. Chaos. We worked hard to gain our audience. We had a big audience, over 200,000 on those platforms. And that's been taken away from us, and we don't get funding. So very unfair, and a government that won't listen. We've reached out several times too. Right? So done lots of stories on Bill C-18.
They just want to blame Mark Zuckerberg, don't they? That's the bête noire.
Yeah. Business groups say BC port stoppage will hurt the Canadian economy. That's kind of like really, like that's a no-brainer. You would think that's the truth, right? Hard to say it wouldn't, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably fair to say it's the most important port in Canada, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, the only possible rival will be Montreal, and that's blocked off.
So, we have the largest landmass, second largest next to Russia, and we have to truck most of our goods and services across this vast nation, and a lot of them come through the port. So, and leave through the port.
Not as long as the trains aren't striking as well, the train workers.
And not just come through the port, but leave through the port. I guess they could, maybe rely a little bit on the Seattle ports, I guess, but that's probably a pretty busy port to begin with.
Yeah, and you really don't want to sign over your sovereignty to a foreign power,
even
if they're friendly.
Well, here's a chance for the Kitimat to get that port going.
Yeah, maybe Prince Rupert can step up.
There you go. Preparation for the next president started months ago, says Trudeau's cabinet. Oh, that's the wrong one there. But yeah, so they say they're getting ready. I did watch an interview with Rosemary Barton and the trade minister saying that they're willing to work with either party.
Yeah, well, I don't think that's how Donald Trump would see it.
Yeah, I think the Trudeau government has said some pretty nasty things about Donald Trump, and I don't know if he'll forget that too soon.
I think also the British government, so just to highlight the fact that it's not just Canada, but I think the British government are probably quite anxious tonight as well, because, there was that scandal where Donald Trump accused the Labour Party, which governs Britain, of election interference because they sent over volunteers. So I think if Trump wins, there are going to be a few people in Europe and Canada, obviously, that are going to be upset.
Then Danielle Smith came out swinging yesterday after Stephen Guilbeault, the environment minister, wants to put a cap on oil and gas emissions and production of... she didn't hold back in saying that that's Alberta's right, and that's not for the federal government to decide on how much oil and gas they produce. You watched a little bit of that, didn't you?
Yeah, it is worth watching. I think she's kind of struggling to speak almost, isn't she? She's so furious.
She was very agitated for sure, and you don't see Danielle Smith get that angry very often, but she was definitely passionately engaged. How's that for a nice, polite way to say it?
Yeah, and you do. I mean, the questions are being asked, as they have been for many years now. What difference really would this make to the world when you have China and India who are energetically building coal-fired power stations and so on? I mean, there's already as well. There are worries, aren't there, about a possible oil crisis with war in the Middle East, and there we are with. Well, she seems to think this would mean that Canada would lose 1 million barrels a day. I mean, that's quite a significant drop, isn't it, in the world market?
She's calling for an election, saying that for them to put out this with a 20% approval rating and putting out this, that she said things like this need to be decided by the public, and she's calling for an election.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could even argue that it could be the central issue in an election campaign, because this really is like absolutely fundamental to Canada's economy, isn't it? And it's not just Alberta; it affects the whole country.
Yeah, it would be a kind of like a very different thing with if Donald Trump wins, it's going to be a drill baby drill, as he says, and then if Canada is stifling production, that'll be kind of a tough spot for Canadians to be in.
Yeah, we don't want that, especially when the next president will determine the sort of NAFTA successor, and because that's going to be renegotiated very soon.
USMCA,
that would be sad.
Yeah. The all-out war in the Middle East likely, according to a poll. A lot of the Europeans believing that thing could escalate into something even bigger. Again, this will probably have a big effect on what happens with the U.S. presidential election. It sounds like Donald Trump will wield the mighty stick of the U.S. a lot more freely than what we've seen from the Biden-Harris government.
Yeah, well, Netanyahu, the leader of Israel, he is openly in favor of the Republicans being in charge. He sees them as being more to his liking. Whereas the Democrats, obviously, they're divided internally, aren't they? Because one of their constituencies in the United States is Arab Americans and Muslim Americans who largely favor Palestine in that conflict. So they're kind of trapped. They're trapped between, and obviously another constituency of the Democratic Party is Jews as well. Yeah. So they're kind of stuck with this fight going on. Whereas supposedly, if the analysis is to be believed, then Trump does have a freer hand in terms of his own party. Yeah.
CNN even called out Kamala Harris, I think it was last night, saying that she made 2 speeches, one to an Arab-speaking audience and one to a more Israeli audience, and they were completely different. And CNN was even like, "That's puzzling," right?
Well, that sort of exemplifies the split, really, doesn't it? The Democratic Party, and obviously the Arab, or not Arab so much, but the Muslim vote in America is quite crucial because of Minnesota, which has quite a large population of Muslims, is sort of on the verge of being a swing state. So they are very nervous about that. And
then Christy of Freeland is wondering why gas lighting is no longer working. Is that what it says? Oh, it didn't say that, right? It says, why are Canadians still frustrated with the economy? Because
it's the same conversation that's been going on in America, isn't it? It's like, why aren't you happy?
I must have read that headline wrong, right? Because she's saying like everything's going great, and just that most people don't believe it.
Yeah, it's from the Canadian Press, that article. Yeah. I think it's worth your time to read it if anyone is in two minds about whether to spend those 5 or 10 minutes on it, because it explains why people are still unhappy. And obviously we're still living with interest rates, even if they have come down a little bit, we're still living with the consequences, aren't we?
Let me just say this. So interest rates are 0.25, you raise them 19-fold, and then you drop them down just to 14-fold, and you ask people, what's the problem?
Yeah. Or also you endure high inflation for years, couple of years, and then suddenly now inflation's 1.6.
Right, but the prices haven't come down.
Yeah. The prices haven't gone down, yeah.
So the price of the orange is, like, say, goes from $1 to $2, and now it's only $1.90, and you're asking why they're complaining.
Yeah. Just look at the macroeconomic data, you stupid people. You should be happy.
Yeah, like I think there was somebody in France that said that, something about having some cake or something like that, right?
Yeah, I vaguely remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, auction. The big auction, KelownaNow auction, is going on in Kelowna. Lots of local vendors. You can go on KelownaNow.com, click the auction button. You're going to see tons of local vendors and local businesses offering services and products. And this is a great time to support local and also get some great products for and services to give away as gifts. Nothing like a local gift to give to a local.
Especially if the port's closed.
There you go. You can just sit back and I won't even go with the Chrystia Freeland joke again, but yeah. But hey, things go good with cookies. I know that for sure. And then we got, I don't know if Jason can play this tweet here, but it says the apocalypse has arrived in Canada, and I've seen a few of these images. I actually saw it firsthand too. Like when they started delivering these Cybertrucks, there's a lot of them out there. And so you're going to start to see these things on the highways and roads of Canada. Did you get yours ordered yet? The big cyber beast?
What is the retail price? $90,000 or something?
Oh no!
So a bit out of my league.
So in Canada right now, only the Foundation series is available. They started selling the regular ones in the United States just recently. And the Foundation series, I think, starts at $137,000, then plus you add all the taxes, and that thing gets pretty high. I do want to make a plug for buying a used EV in British Columbia. There's zero tax when you go to insure it. So if you buy it in a private sale.
I wonder if sales will be affected by the US election as well, because Elon Musk has attached himself so visibly to.
Well, he thinks if Trump loses, he's in big trouble. Like he might go to jail. So.
Yeah, well, he said that for a while, hasn't he? With not only in the US but also Brazil, where he said that there's a certain amount of politicized prosecution of his companies. It'll be interesting to see.
So he's playing a little Texas Hold'em there, where he went all in.
Yep. And in Texas, appropriately. That's where he's best, isn't it?
I guess maybe that's why. And now only if he makes up with Beyonce, then they can really get it going on, because they can use that song. Gold continues to rocket higher. Costco is seeing huge purchases in gold ever since, and Costco now selling silver and gold. So people seem to like it. I think a lot of people just didn't know where to buy it, right? So Costco having it there has really put a lot of gold into retail hands.
Yeah, is there anything Costco can't do?
No, they seem to be, they still sell that $1.50 hot dog, right? Like, who doesn't want a $1.50 hot dog, right?
It makes what would otherwise be a miserable experience, being surrounded by people in these aisles while you go shopping. It makes it quite bearable, I think.
Well, I think
because you also get the Pepsi, don't you?
I think the $1.50 hot dog is for the males. And then the wife loves to go in there and do all the shopping. Well, you just head straight to the hot dog counter, right, for the $1.50, right? Get that value meal.
That's exactly right.
I used to do 2 of them, and then the first one goes down really well. It's the second one that you kind of regret, but at $1.50, you think, oh well, hey, where are you going to get a completely full for $3?
There's only one other place that I know of, and it's IKEA.
Oh yeah, and their hot dogs.
Culinary rival.
I would say the hot dogs at IKEA are made out of a different substance.
probably wood pulp.
Swedish hot dogs or something like that. And then I took a friend up there once because they got the dining room as well as the hot dogs downstairs or at the till, but that dining room upstairs there. And I said, order as much as you want, as many entrees as you want. I got you covered, right? Because they can get the meatballs for like $4 or something.
Yeah, I actually quite like IKEA's as well, though. But it is interesting how profound an impact these 2 stores have on the diets of Canadians.
Yeah, I think you can get a cinnamon bun for $1 there. It's pretty good, right? Like if you're looking for, I don't know if that food's much good for you, but definitely if you're looking to eat out, I mean, how do you beat? And that hot dog at Costco is actually pretty good for $1.50. You get a drink with that as well.
And you can choose beef or pork, I think.
I don't think they've had the Polish hot dog for a while. Not in Kelowna anyway.
Ah, well.
My wife did not like the Polish hot dog because she said every time you burp for like 3 or 4 hours after that, the car just filled up with this really bad offensive smell. So she said, if you're gonna eat that hot dog, you're not eating that other one, not the Polish one. So I got a lot of grief for that. The weather looks great out there, and look at how the background of Kelowna is lit up. That's a live shot of Kelowna. You got the sun just caressing the towers in the background. You got traffic flowing very nicely on Highway 97, or Harvey, as some people like to call it. Looks like a beautiful day in the Okanagan. How are things in your neck of the woods?
Pretty similar, I would say. Maybe a little bit less sunny.
There you go. Okay. Well, we're looking forward to the election results. Are you going to stay up and watch any of it, or?
Well, my usual bedtime is, just like you, but for different reasons. My usual bedtime is quite early. Yeah. But I will be. It's hard to resist, isn't it? To be honest, yeah, I'm going to have to.
Well, you're up early though too, right? You're up 5 a.m. Eastern time, so they maybe just be wrapping up some of the polls by then when you catch up. So you can probably look at KelownaNow in the morning. We may have some early results anyway. You'll have some of the stuff, but I'm sure you'll see it all over the. They do have a lot of media outlets that are going to be covering this, and of course X. You'll probably get blow by blow from Elon Musk as well if you follow him on X.
Yeah.
I don't know how he does all that
stuff. If you wanna, I mean, obviously CBC, CTV, they're all going to do it as well, but probably best to jump over those and go straight to America, because they'll all stream it, won't they? They'll have.
Yeah, I think I mean, for me, if you want some balance, watch CNN and Fox, and between the two, some of the other ones seem to be very. They have I think the most resources too, and Fox usually has the biggest. What you call that? Audience, right? They always win in the viewership stuff.
Ratings, yeah, that's
what it is. And then CNN, obviously been around for a long time, been in the game for a while. There's some really good journalists over there as well. And then some of the other networks, I don't think they just have the resources that those two have.
Yeah, and I think all eyes on Pennsylvania. Yeah. That's really the key, isn't it? I mean, particularly if Kamala wins. If that can be decided before we all go to bed, then I think that's pretty much the election, isn't it? If Kamala were to win Pennsylvania. That's
what the Elon Musk and them, that's why they spend so much energy in Pennsylvania. They're saying that is the critical state to win. But they're projecting that Donald Trump wins that state too, so who knows?
Yeah, right? Very, very tight, but we're all going to find out soon.
Right, and then even in our own, we're still trying to sort out the BC election with the Speaker of the House thing. I talked to Renee a little bit about that. They were trying to get, just like John Horgan got a BC Liberal to walk across, they're trying to get a BC Conservative to become Speaker of the House so they can hang on to their majority. Otherwise, they're going to be always at risk.
Yeah, they're going to have to go in with the Greens, aren't they, in that scenario? And that's going to be a repeat of John Horgan's time.
Or a repeat of the Justin Trudeau Jagmeet Singh stuff, and nobody likes that either, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. It's it often reflects badly on the smaller party as well, doesn't it? They often do worse in the next election.
Yeah, I think Jagmeet Singh is going to probably wear some of the waning popularity of Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, I mean, and the Tories have obviously, it's a strategy of theirs, isn't it? You hear them, even Tracy Gray, if you watch her in Parliament, she always refers to them as the NDP Liberals and tries to inject this idea that they're the same party and they're the same sort of people. And if that succeeds, then yeah, the NDP, you'd think, are going to go down with the Liberals, aren't they?
If Trump wins, it's going to be hard for the Liberals to continue to sell that Pierre Poilievre as Donald Trump, negative message, because it's going to be tough to push out that message if he is the president of the United States, the most powerful country in the world. Still there?
Sorry, I did lose you there, but it seems to be a dodgy connection right now.
Maybe we just got filtered. I just said that if Donald Trump wins, it'll be tough for the Liberals to sell that message where we're trying to say that Pierre Poilievre is just a carbon copy of Trump, and that that's why you should be scared of him. It'll be tough to sell that.
Yeah, well, there'll be a lot of difficulties, I think, in that scenario. I mean, a poll came out. I can't actually remember who did it, but one of the major pollsters, I think it might have been Nanos, found that most Canadians would think that Pierre would do better if there was a Trump presidency. Oh. So there's also that to be concerned about, because people might make a practical decision and say, I don't really like the Tories, but Pierre would have a better relationship.
I thought I saw something where it said they'd rather have Justin Trudeau with Kamala Harris and Poilievre with Trump.
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, that's quite pragmatic.
Well, I mean,
approach, isn't it?
I guess you could say they're kind of more like straight talk business people, where the other two would be softer.
Yeah, and it just also matters because we talk about polarization within countries, but it's also happening within the whole West, isn't it? And I suppose it crosses borders, and it really matters that they align. I think the two leaders.
Yeah, there you go. I think that's it for today. And then you're going to have that story up with my discussion with Renee Merrifield, our first political show. We're going to have to come up with a name for it. And any final thoughts?
No final thoughts. Just hope everybody's excited to watch American democracy in action.
Well, I know what I'm doing tonight. I'm going to make some popcorn and watch it. And enjoy the show. And if people have the betting mind, and BC Lotters gives a lot of that money away to youth sports organizations, so you can donate some of that money and make your bet at the same time. Not that you should gamble, but hey, if you're going to gamble.
It's as good as it gets anyway. It's as positive as it gets.
There you go. Thank you for watching Kelowna Now.
We don't just report the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local, independent. News you can trust.